Good morning, Dr. Subhash. This is Dr. Ashok Kumar from Delhi. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dr. Ashok Kumar. Good to see you here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome, sir. Welcome. I'm really happy to see you all.
Thank you very much. It's early in the morning, 7:30. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Professor Latifa, good morning.
Morning. How are you, Dr. Subhash?
I'm fine, Professor Latifa. Thank you very much for joining. Dr. Poo, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Dr. Subhash. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank
Can
you
you
very
see
much.
Yeah, can you see me? My background is okay?
Yeah. Thank you. Very
Dr.
good morning,
Latifa, how are you?
Yeah. I'm
Good,
fine.
Dr. Fook, how are you?
Long time no see.
Few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hope to
Dr.
But I
see you
haven't
in person.
physically seen you for a while.
Yeah, Dr. Badrul is also here.
Hi,
Dr.
good
Susan
morning.
is here. I
Good
think,
morning. Assalamualaikum, everybody.
yeah,
Salam.
Professor Dr. Blackburn, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, very good evening. It's a late evening there. Okay,
Nice to be here. I'm used to being up late. It's okay.
yeah, thank you for joining us. Okay, let's get started. Everybody is here in the virtual room. Hello, everyone, and hello from Malaysia. Welcome to the 8th program of Biosafety and Biosecurity Month, October 2020, a month to raise biosafety and biosecurity awareness. Thank you very much for your participation today. You have joined our special webinar and dialogue session on One Health workforce development and virus management preparedness in the face of emerging zoonotic diseases. We'll begin in short time. I would like to kick off today's program by reminding you some of the housekeeping items. As you can see on the screen, first of all, please turn off your microphone during the session and only unmute when you are required to speak. Please turn on your camera so that we can see each other. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to message us on the chat box. We will try our best to address your concerns. The chat box is also here for you to introduce yourself. So you can introduce yourself to all the participants. Even though it's a virtual, we can have an interaction. Please give us your name and your organization. Last but not least, no phone calls or disruptions during the session, please note. And note that this session will be recorded and it's live now on YouTube. The record will be saved on our YouTube channel right after the program, and it will be made available to the public for viewing. An evaluation survey will appear at the end of our session. Please spend some time. It will not take more than 2 minutes. So you can give your feedback, as your feedback will really help us, and it's meaningful for us to improve our next session. So thank you very much for your attention, and once again, welcome all to our special webinar and dialogue session, which is organized by AIMST University's Institutional Biosafety Committee as a part of October 2020 Biosafety and Biosecurity Month at AIMST University. The main aim of this Biosafety and Biosecurity Month is to raise the awareness among the students, staff, stakeholders, and associates of AIMST University. And we have organized 12 webinars and poster presentation competition. I'm sure all these activities will help all the participants, students, stakeholders, associates, as well as everybody, those are viewing on Facebook or YouTube, to learn more about the biosafety and biosecurity. My name is Subhash. I work as a senior associate professor of biotechnology at AIMST University. And currently I'm also serving as a chairman of Institutional Biosafety Committee of AIMST University. Hence, as a chairman of Institutional Biosafety Committee of AIMST University, it is a great honor for me to host all of you and serve as a MC2 for this special webinar and dialogue session. On behalf of Institutional Biosafety Committee of AIMST University, I welcome you all. If anyone has any issue with audio or video, please use the chat box and we will do our best to help you. This special webinar and dialogue session is very important, not only for AIMST, not only for the participants, because today we have opportunity to hear various perspectives from two important regional university networks, Malaysia One Health University Network and Vietnam One Health University Network. So they will be talking about One Health workforce development and virus management preparedness in the face of emerging zoonotic diseases. So it's a wonderful session. I'm very excited and looking forward to learn lots of things from the panel members and two speakers. Just let me share the slide. So before we start, I just want to highlight, you can see on the screen. So program outline, I just want to make sure that all participants are familiar with today's program. At the beginning, we will have opening remarks from our Honorable Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Vaidi Muhammad Vaidi Bahari. Then after that, we will hear opening remarks from Honorable Mr. Christian Kando. Then after that, we will have the first speaker, Professor Latifa. She will share about the initiatives and activities of Malaysia One Health University Network. Then after that, we will hear from the lots of insights from Dr. Phuc, who is a coordinator of Vietnam One Health University Network. So then once two speakers complete their talk, we will have a expert panel discussion, Q&A session. We have three expert panelists, Dr. Badrul Hisham bin Abdul Smad from National Defense University of Malaysia. Our second eminent and expert panelist is Dr. Jason Blackburn from the University of Florida, United States of America. And last one but not least, our third expert panelist is Dr. Ashok Kumar, who is Assistant Director General with Indian government in Indian Council of Agriculture Research, New Delhi, India. And once we complete our panel discussion, finally, then we'll have a closing comments and remarks from our registrar, Senior Associate Professor, Dr. Kadiresan Salasiwam. And then we'll end the program. So we are ready to start. So ladies and gentlemen, to start this session, I would like to invite our Honorable Professor Muhammad Vaidi bin Bahari, our Acting Vice Chancellor of AIMST University, to deliver his opening remarks. Please give me a few moments. Let me check whether he's allowed to, yeah, just hold on. I'm just making him co-host, so he will not have any problem. Okay, so our Honorable Professor Muhammad Vaidi Bahari, Acting Vice Chancellor of AIMST University, is going to deliver the opening remarks. Prof, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Subhash. Very good morning, selamat pagi, good afternoon, and good evening for our counterpart in some place that right now is having evening time. On behalf of AIMST, I welcome all of you to this webinar on the One Health Workforce Development and Biorisk Management Preparedness in the face of emerging zoonotic disease. As we know that zoonotic disease is actually a disease caused by the germ or organism that can spread from animal to human beings. And now, I think we are in the pandemics of those kind of disease, which is caused by the COVID-19. Okay? I hope that all of your loved ones, your family members, your friends, your colleagues, and so on, are not affected by this disease right now and in future. Okay? Hopefully, by understanding the problem of this disease and how to reduce the risk of being exposed to this disease, we'll be able to help us to prevent from being infected by these problems. Actually, this is the second time for our AIMST University to observe these Biosafety and Biosecurity Months. Last year, we have got the same events where we have got Biosafety and Biosecurity Months in 2019. AIMST University, actually, we are focusing on the safety, not only to the environment, but also to our staff, our students, and also all the members of the us. The main objective of Biosafety and Biosecurity Months of this year is to raise the biosafety and biosecurity awareness among the students, staff, stakeholders of AIMST and other associate of AIMST University. However, we are going to live and providing the opportunity for everyone, not only to the members of AIMST University or anybody associated with university, by having this online through webinar. So I hope that there will be more participants from publics outside there to participate in this webinar. I was informed that more than 300 participants from more than 12 countries going to participate in this webinar. I want to highlight that in Malaysia, AIMST University is the first who start observing Biosafety and Biosecurity Months to promote the importance of biological risk management. Our students, staff, stakeholders, and other associates, as well as other participants, are getting benefit from these activities. AIMST University has also developed and offer laboratory biorisk management course to train our students in campus. I'm pleased to know that our AIMST University student has worked with the Vietnam One Health University Network for students. Right? In fact, this type of experience and exposure to the student is essential to develop their skills and make them ready for the industry and other society later on. My special thanks to our partners, Mr. Christian Kondo from United States Indo-Pacific Command's Regional Manager, Biological Threat Reduction Program, Defense Threat Reduction Agency from USA, who are joining us today. I'm also delighted that Prof. Latifah, Coordinator of Malaysia One Health University Network, is here to share her experience. I want to thank Prof. Latifah for joining us, and also Dr. Puk from Coordinator of Vietnam One Health University Network, which has provided opportunity to our students to participate in their activities. He also going to be with us to share his experience in conducting this program. I also would like to thank our guest panelists, Dr. Badrul from Malaysia, Dr. Ashok Kumar from India, and Dr. Blackburn from USA, who are willing to share with us their experience and to answer questions, if any, from participants and from publics. I hope that today's dialogue session focus on One Health Force development and biorisk management preparedness in the face of emerging zoonotic disease will boost the collaborations among Malaysian OHUN, Vietnam's MyOHUN, and AIMST University. And in future, I hope that AIMST University will be considered to be partners of these activities. And probably, Pro Latifa, you can include AIMST University in the list of the universities that are going to participate in this kind of what they call it, the bio-risk activities for this country. I want to thank the Institutional Biosafety Committee of AIMST University for their effort, to promote this biosafety, especially to Prof. Subhash, who have worked very hard to ensure this webinar is going on smoothly. Again, and I hope that everyone will benefit from this webinar and enjoy this webinar. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Professor Muhammad Baidi Bahari, for delivering opening remarks. We do appreciate your insights and thank you very much. Now, I invite Honorable Mr. Christian Kando, Indo-Pacific Command Regional Manager, who is working for Biological Threat Reduction Program, which comes under Defense Threat Reduction Agency of United States of America. So I invite him to deliver his opening remarks. So let me check. Mr.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's an honor for me to be here today. And I really hope that all of you, your friends and loved ones, are safe and in good health. As I said earlier, it's an honor for me to welcome you to the Asian Institute of Medicine, Science, and Technology, also known as AIMST University, Biosecurity and Biosafety Awareness Month. I want to thank all of you making the time to attend. It's very important what we're doing today. And today's session will be on One Health, workforce development, and biorisk management preparedness in the face of emerging zoonotic disease. I am personally delighted and proud to know that AIMST University has developed a laboratory biorisk management course to train biotechnology degree students. AIMST University initiative to collaborate with Vietnam One Health University Network, also known as VOHUN, the Biological Threat Reduction Program, also known as BTRP, Sandia National Labs, also known as SNL, and also Malaysia One Health University Network, also known as MyOHUN, is very admirable. I say this because biorisk management is critical to global health security. I am excited to see university networks in the region working together to prepare the future workforce to address infectious disease threats from a biorisk management perspective. As we know, scientists around the world handle and test dangerous pathogens in laboratories. These pathogens come from human, animal, and the environmental sector. Remember that biological threats can be posed by a deliberate release, in other words, intentionally. For example, will be bioterrorism, and they can also be accidental. Biological hazard can enter our body through inhalation, such as breathing, absorption, such as direct contact on the skin, contact to the eyes, nose, or the mouth. Sometimes we cannot get this through ingestion, such as swallowing. And this happens sometimes because we don't wash our hands. And in some other cases, could be by injections, through punctures, needles, broken glass, as we work in the laboratories. To mitigate biological risks, it is critical that we and the future workforce are prepared to prevent, detect, respond to these threats. Preventing the next outbreak requires an educated One Health workforce that is able to apply the concepts of biosafety, biosecurity in order to manage the emerging disease threats effectively. Last but not least, I want to thank all of you, to my friends for Sandia National Labs, for taking the time, for being moderators. Thank you, Dr. Suzanne, and thank you, Iris, for your support and your mentoring to the students. I want to thank my friends from MyOHUN, Professor Latifa. It's always been an honor to work with you. Dr. Fook, same as you. We have been working together for the last 2 years, and I hope that you guys can share your initiatives and perspective with all the students and attendees of this webinar. I want to thank our guest panelist, Dr. Badrul from National Defense University in Malaysia. This is the second time that you and I are working together. Dr. Kumar from Indian Council of Agricultural Research. You and I have not worked together, but I really opened the doors to you to work with us with BTRP in the near future. To my friend and colleague, Jason Blackburn from University of Florida. Collectively, we continue to work in Vietnam, and I hope that in the future you're able to work with my friends in Malaysia. I know that your experience and expertise will be valuable to everybody in this webinar. Dr. Suvash, it's also an honor to work with you. I know that I want to thank you for everything you're doing through AIMST University, for collaborating with VOHUN, with BTRP, and everybody in today's sessions. I hope you can continue to implement biorisk management sessions in the near future, not just with VOHUN or BTRP, but I hope you can take also this in a regional aspect to CHUN and even to work with MyOHUN in the near future. And I know that your initiative could bring a lot of value to MyOHUN in the future. Once again, I want to thank all of you guys. Without further ado, please, Dr. Suvash, lead the way. Assalamu alaikum. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mr. Christian Kando, for delivering opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, now this is the time to start. So first of all, we will listen to the first speaker. Our first speaker is none other than Professor Latifa, who is a coordinator of Malaysia One Health University Network. So before she starts talking, I want to briefly introduce about Professor Latifa. Because of a number of years experience, her CV is very long, but I just want to highlight 7-8 points. Those are very important for audience to know. Professor Latifa Hassan is a veterinary public health epidemiologist and senior dynamic academician at Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University Putra, Malaysia. She graduated with her doctorate in veterinary medicine at University Putra, Malaysia, and later on, she received her doctorate from Cornell University, United States of America. She is a popular teacher and a driven researcher. She loves her job, nurturing young minds and exploring new knowledge frontiers. Her research covers the areas of epidemiology of emerging infections, especially those of public health interest. She is an avid speaker for One Health and facilitates multiple interagency training in the country, in Malaysia. She has been regularly invited to speak at various national and international seminars and conferences. And she is a very familiar face at many interagency meetings and platforms. Currently, she is the head of the Department of Veterinary Laboratory Diagnostics at University Putra, Malaysia. Currently, she is also serving as a coordinator of Malaysia One Health University Network. In addition to that one, she is wearing multiple hats. So because of all her experience, credential, number of years experience, and wisdom, so when Professor Latifa talks, everybody listens. So now this is the time to listen to Professor Latifa. So I pass the mic to Professor Latifa. Professor Latifa, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Subash, for the very kind and scary introduction. You put me in a very tough spot. It's a lot of expectations to be met. So I'll try my best. It's a very daunting topic today. But anyway, I want to wish everybody a very good afternoon, a very good morning, very good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening if you are in the US. Thank you to the organizer, Dr. Subash, and the Vice Chancellor of AIMST for having me and giving me this privilege and opportunity to be the first presenter for this very important topic. And it's a very important month for biosafety and biosecurity to be celebrated worldwide. Like I said, the topic is quite daunting, just because the issue of like developing One Health workforce is an evolving kind of like phenomena. It's an evolving concept. There is no fixed mechanism of doing this. Every country and every region has their own way of establishing and developing, building the workforce. So there's no one right way of doing it. So I'll just try and highlight some of the things that we have been doing in Malaysia and perhaps regionally as well, and what's happening around the world in terms of One Health workforce development. So I'm going to share my screen. Feel free to listen or not to listen. Don't listen to Dr. Subhash. I'm not that scary. So you may leave or you may not listen to me. It's really up to you. So just give you an outline of, I have 20 minutes to deliberate this very important topic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is emerging zoonotic diseases. I'm sure many of you know where it is. I just want to make sure that everybody is in the same platform and know where where is the source of this discussion. One Health and why One Health, what is One Health workforce and why, building One Health workforce, and national effort to build One Health human capacity and One Health cadre. So emerging zoonosis is a very familiar term these days. Like everybody's talking about it, and COVID-19 is making sure that everybody knows what is emerging zoonosis. Zoonosis is diseases that are naturally transmitted between animals and humans. Just now, the Professor Vice Chancellor mentioned that these are diseases that can be transmitted from animals to humans. I want to correct that a little bit, because it's not just diseases transmitted from animals to humans. It's actually diseases transmitted between animals and humans, meaning that humans have the capacity and the capability to transmit zoonotic diseases to animals. Like COVID-19 nowadays, the outbreaks that occur in mink and perhaps cases that occur in cats and dogs are all from infected humans. So don't forget that. Don't always, because I'm a vet, I tend to be defensive against and protective to animals. So I try to emphasize the fact that zoonotic diseases are not just transmitted from animals to humans, but also from humans to animals. 60% of emerging infectious diseases reported globally are zoonoses. Over 30 new human pathogens have been detected in the last 3 decades. 75% actually originated from animals. That's a pretty important key points for us to remember on why we have to do One Health approach in managing zoonotic diseases. By definition, the WHO FAO OIE joint consultation in 2004 defined emerging zoonosis as a zoonotic disease that is newly recognized or newly evolved, or that has occurred previously but shows an increasing incidence or expansion in geographical host or vector range. So that's the definition of emerging zoonosis. So huge global issue with tremendous global impact in terms of health and economy. And World Bank estimated that 2.5 billion cases of human illnesses and 2.7 billion deaths worldwide occur each year because of zoonotic disease. So just showing you a few charts about timeline of zoonotic diseases around the world since Spanish flu in 1918, which killed about 50 million people, to the 2013 avian flu H7N1 recently that killed about 44 deaths. But along the line, along that time, there's multiple zoonotic diseases, emerging zoonoses that occur mainly in the form of flu, some type of flu, and also other forms such as Nipah disease that occur in Malaysia. We have that, that unique experience, of having novel disease that occur in our country. So most of the time, emerging infectious diseases, it's pretty spectacular in terms of its appearance and how it arises, and potentially can lead to large human fatalities. So even among genera of coronavirus itself, it has resulted in multiple different diseases around the world that kill many people, including now we have COVID-19. And COVID-19 now, this is 2 days ago. Global cases about 42 million, and global deaths is about 1.1 million. So that's a lot of cases, a lot of death, and multiple economic and social consequences. Emerging diseases, emerging infectious zoonotic diseases help as multiple drivers, and many papers and literatures have spoken about this, have deliberated about this, have discussed this. And according to this very nice infographic that I got from these agencies, drivers for zoonotic pandemic is attributed because of the changes due to agricultural intensification, over exploitation of wildlife, urbanization and industry, demand for animal protein, climate change, food supply change, travel and transport. So multiple drivers, and with multiple drivers, each of these drivers has different stakeholders responsible for the things that's happening within this driver. For example, for agriculture intensification, it probably falls under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Agriculture of the country, or for overexploitation of wildlife, probably involve some kind of like ministry that involved in wildlife or natural resources. So every single one of these drivers has different varying stakeholders responsible for each of these. So when we know that the emergence of zoonotic diseases involve actually the contribution and association linkages of all these different factors before it arises, we know that this is a very complex problem. So just as to demonstrate, for example, just to talk about trading and how humans have resulted in some of the cases or incidents of zoonotic diseases that arise around the world. Trading itself, for chicken, for example, in general, I mean, just by native, the way that they travel, very, very little traveling parameters, but human, because of trading and market driven, this chicken has traveled about 5,000 kilometers. And pangolin, for example, generally do not travel too much, but because of trading, either legal or illegal, they have traveled about 10,000 kilometers, for example. So the fact that they are traveling, and a lot of this is human driven because of whatever reason, that has resulted in perhaps pathogens that has not been able to cross that barrier from wildlife to humans, have been able to do that just because of the closer proximity between animals and humans. So, like I said, because of each driver falls into different agencies, and different agencies responsible for each of these. So One Health approach is definitely the way to go in terms of managing that complex problem. So because One Health considers the linkages among the health of humans, animals, and their shared environments. Remember the word shared environment, whether we are animals or whether we are humans, then we share the same environment. So whatever goes into environment, whatever happens in the environment, it will come back to haunt us. So as such, the approach allows for a wider and deeper understanding, this One Health approach, and ability to address the complex eco-social determinants of health and to more effectively and efficiently tackle threats through coordination across disciplines and sectors. So CDC did this very nice chart showing the level of coordination, communication, and collaboration that is required to ensure that we achieve the best health outcomes for people, animal, plants, and our environment. So the tripartite guide has been published in 2019 to address zoonotic diseases in the countries, and this is a quite important publication by FAO, OIE, and WHO. So for this, in this tripartite guide, it says that all relevant sectors and disciplines across the human-animal environment interface are involved in addressing health in a coordinated way that is more effective, efficient, or sustainable, that might be able to achieve, might not be able to achieve if not all relevant sectors were engaged. So because coordination, collaboration is required to detect, assess, and respond to
Professor Latifa, please can you unmute yourself? Professor Latifa. Unmute yourself, Professor Latifa, please. Yeah. Unmute yourself, please, Professor Latifa.
Are you saying that I have been talking all this while and I've been muted?
No, somebody was making noise, so that's why all participants were muted to eliminate that.
Sorry. Okay. All right.
So please share.
All right. So shall I share my screen again?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for interruption, Professor Latifa.
It's all right. Thank you. So because pathogens, they know no boundaries. There's no passport that is required by pathogens to cross geography. And then because of the cascading of multiple impact with the direct health outcomes to individuals and communities, as well as the impact to the economy, therefore everybody needs to work towards implementing One Health approach. Even the United Nations has an agenda for sustainable development goals that is to be achieved by 2030 by all member countries. So there's 17 goals in all, and number 3 is good health and well-being. So for good health and well-being definitely talks about, the fact that we should be maintaining, controlling emerging zoonoses such as that of COVID-19 that's occurring currently. But in doing so, we cannot do this without all the other goals as well. You need to cure, or you need to find some kind of like treatment for poverty and to cure hunger, gender equality, and all these different very important goals, with the 17th goal as partnership for the goals, which means that you need to embody and you need to be embracing One Health if you were to achieve the sustainable development goals. So, but, we can talk about this all the time, but collaboration and partnership is easier said than done. I completely agree with this, because initially when we just started with this, it was not easy convincing people to join us. Especially when for decades, workers are so used to working in a very traditional set manner. So many people, many agencies, even ministries, because of the way that the ministries or the agencies are set with certain goals and objectives, so sometimes they may work in silo, and it's quite comfortable to work in silo. Even as a researcher, I know it's so comfortable to work in silo. You just do your own thing. You don't care about what's happening around you. You don't care about what other people are doing. So it's very comfortable to do that. And that's a culture that's very difficult to change. So like I said, again, it's easier said than done. It takes a lot of like convincing and stuff like that. So, and then you also need what's called the One Health core competencies, because in order to work together effectively, it is essential that future workforce and current professionals adopting the One Health approach have a common platform. So a set of core competencies enabling them to interact easily and to speak the same language. So these are the One Health core competencies in Southeast Asia. You have the One Health core competencies and One Health technical competencies, and it comprises of all these different attributes that need to be mastered and has been suggested to be adopted at the university level in their various curriculum. So One Health, the Southeast Asia One Health University Network formulated a One Health module comprising of all this. Is available online if any of your university want to use this. It is completely free, and you can adapt and adopt it in any way that you want. Any of these competencies, you may take up the whole thing, or you may just a little bit of it. You can, you can choose however you want to use it. Why One Health? Because One Health approach builds on existing capacity. This is quite important for countries. For example, most countries have very limited kind of like resources, human resources or financial resources. We don't have limitless resources. So One Health allows building on existing capacity, but at the same time bringing disciplines and sectors together to provide broader health benefits. It increases cross-sectoral coordination to promote science-based decision-making, reduce unnecessary kind of duplication among the sectors. And then you can save money, basically, for example, by investing in a One Health approach through mitigation of pandemic threats versus business as usual adaptation. SAFE can save you about 300 billion globally over the next century. This is by the World Bank. It's not me, I don't make up this number. The World Bank estimated this. And upfront investment of 3.4 billion per year globally in One Health capacity could avoid over 30 billion in zoonotic disease response annually. So imagine that, you can do things upfront, and then you can prevent from spending so much later on. A lot of like preventative instead of curative kind of like effort under One Health. But like I said, again, there is no standard way to operationalize One Health. Every country is different. Every context is different. The culture is different. The political understanding is different. So each country have to work their own way on how to do this best. Mechanism definitely varies across region, but differences can be leveraged as countries work toward multi-sectoral coordination platform. But you need political will for that. If you don't have political will, then it's a lot of talk but no action. One Health workforce. So you want to implement One Health approach to problem solving at the interface of people, animal, and ecosystem. And certainly this demands knowledge, skills, and expertise from diverse disciplines. Universities is in the unique position to translate One Health from concept into action through collaborative training. So again, this is easier said than done, right? Because a lot of curriculum are fixed, and then it requires multiple number of years before curriculum can be changed. So at MyOHUN, for example, we try to work with the curriculum that we have and inserting and embedding One Health concept to what we already have, instead of like trying to like overhaul everything, which could be very shocking to a lot of people, including the university itself. So operationalizing the One Health requires current and future health professionals trained with focus on cross-cutting. So at the university level, there's a lot of like interprofessional programs nowadays that with some emphasis or lots of emphasis in One Health and communication, collaboration, and partnership. So and a lot of emphasis on One Health issues such as zoonotic diseases, AMR, antimicrobial resistance, for example. That's a big One Health issue. So and education, we need to evolve through practical experiences. You want to address real world problems because you want to make the workforce going into the sector, the working sector, as competent as possible. At the university level, there need to be a change in terms of mindset on how we train the students so that you can include more world life experience. So at a global level, there's a definite significant shift in defining One Health as core educational material in professional and health programs. And definitely, for example, for veterinary program, OIE has identified One Health competency as a requirement for the graduating veterinary students. And I'm sure it's true for medical as well. International assessment tools such as JEE and IHR has looked into the country level One Health policy and approach in terms of doing their businesses. I think I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk some slides. Okay, so in many countries, because of the different challenges by which people are facing to develop the workforce, an interagency working group is one of the ways by which it's sustainable and people can do it quite cheaply, such as, for example, Malaysia have their Malaysia strategy for emerging diseases, which is interagency, or Malaysia Interagency Committee on Zoonotic Diseases, or the National Antibiotic Resistance Committee. This is all interagency. I'm sure other countries have the same thing or similar thing. And then at the national level, there's a lot of international One Health network and consortia that promotes One Health, such as the One Health Workforce Program, the Southeast Asia One Health University Network, the One Health Central and Eastern Africa Network. So, and then even some countries that now have One Health designated degree and training program. So Southeast Asia One Health University Network comprises of multiple countries, just to show you the map quickly. And then for One Health Workforce Next Generation, which we just got and we began implementing between, it's going to be between 2020 to 2024. It has 3 major objectives for workforce development, workforce assessment, and organizational sustainability and resilience. So universities are in such unique position to translate One Health from concept into action. But of course, there are challenges. People tend to stick a lot to their discipline. There's a lot of like silo kind of like approach by which you have to change the mindset a little bit. Very cramped and crowded curricula, very limited time to do things that they have to do already. And then because now we are requesting them to insert One Health, it becomes something that is maybe to some people is not that ideal. So MyOHUN, just to introduce, for those who do not know, we are comprising of 17 universities, and right now we have 4 ministries under us. We have a vision and mission. I'm running out of time with goals, and these are some of our achievements. We have run about 120 national and regional activities between 2013 and 2020, comprising of various type of activities for the in-service ministerial or officers at the ministries or different agencies, and also for students at the university, multiple disciplinary students, and then also for academician teaching these various disciplines. So we did a quick survey for MyOHUN members, asking them about how much have implemented One Health, this one's one of the question is, my faculty has added core elective One Health course into program I am teaching. So 62% says yes and 38% says no. So that's a remarkable change compared to when we began, which is barely nothing. And then the curriculum of the program I am teaching will include some aspect of One Health competency not currently taught. About 90% says yes. Curriculum of the program I'm teaching will include important One Health issues. 100% says yes. And then some says that 90% says that I've already included this stuff. So, which is fantastic. There are among our members who spend quite a big chunk of their course time to talk about One Health issues and One Health concept. So about 10% says to spend more than 20 hours, 7% says that between 11 to 15 hours, and at least about 48%, 50%, at least 1 to 5 hours. So that's a lot. But of course, there are challenges, challenges is everywhere. So it's not a totally ideal situation. And this is also from our survey asking, after they have introduced the One Health concept, whether they have changed the way they do things, whether the curriculum have been changed. And we saw that there's especially in this area by which is the core competency, it's quite a big, quite a nice jump from what it was before to what it is right now. Like, for example, for One Health concept and knowledge, before it was very few, now it jumped quite high, so which is very nice. So because, we cannot convince everybody, people have different level of enthusiasm, people take things a little bit differently, some people love it, some people hate it, some people just do not care. So it's just to show you the data by which we took among the workforce, medical, veterinary environment. Every time we run training, we try to make sure that we have certain numbers of people or expertise from environmental health, vet, and also from medical and public public health. So these are just data by which I think I have to skip this just because it's just taking too much time. So according to the USAID report for the 5-year project between 2013, 2015, 2019, MyOHUN, we have an attendance of 3,814 people in service and pre-service. I'm sorry, pre-service and in service combination together. And then for future professional train, these are the numbers for the different countries under One Health University network. For Malaysia, for the whole Southeast Asia is about 4,400, and Malaysia trained about 1,390 current professionals trained. For the whole of Southeast Asia, it's about 4,000, and Malaysia, MyOHUN trained about 1,500. And for teachers or faculty members, for the whole of Southeast Asia, it's about 2,100, and Malaysia will train about 500. So just to show you feedback from our alumni from some of the programs that we have been running every year. For example, this MyOHUN UKM-led program for tabletop simulation during COVID-19. So we put out this survey asking them, about the usefulness of the program. Tabletop simulation is among postgraduate students. So are you practicing the knowledge gained from the training? And 92% say yes. And then do you think the training benefit you? And of course, 100% say yes. For One Health FETP, this is for mid-level ministerial offices. We asked them this similar question. This is UNIMA's-led program. Are you practicing the knowledge gained from the training? 95% say yes. And do you think the training benefit you? And more than 90% say yes, only one says no. Okay, so these are some of products and our publication, and these are some of the references that I've used. I think I've exceeded my time. I apologize for that, and I thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Back to you, Subhash.
Maybe you can, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Latifa, for a wonderful presentation. Definitely it set the stage for expert panel discussion. So before we start the second presentation by Dr. Phuc, who is a coordinator of Vietnam One Health University Network of Vietnam, I just want to inform all the participants. This session dialogue session will be moderated by Dr. Susan Kelly. Dr. Susan Kelly is from United States of America. We brought in a very special moderator for this special session. So Dr. Susan, would you please introduce yourself so participants know about you?
Yes, hello, and thank you, Dr. Subhash, and thank you, AIMST University, for giving us all an opportunity to gather here. So I have a doctorate in veterinary medicine, which was followed by a postdoctoral master's in comparative pathology. So I spent some years doing research, vaccine research in primates at the California National Primate Research Center, and then went on to do various government projects. So my interest lies in whole of government approaches to not just biological threats, but chemical, radiological, and nuclear threats as well. So thank you for this opportunity to moderate your session today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Susan. We have 3 expert panel members. Those are specially invited for this special dialogue session. So one of the panel member is Dr. Badrul from National Defense University of Malaysia. So I want to request Dr. Badrul, please, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Subhash. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Assalamualaikum. I am Dr. Badrul Hisham Abdul Samad. I'm from the Faculty of Medicine and Defense Health, National Defense University of Malaysia. But previously, I worked with the Ministry of Health Malaysia for 26 years. And I was involved specifically in the communicable disease outbreaks, in biosecurity. And for the past 6 years before I joined the National Defence University, I was specially trained in the chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear explosive CBRNE preparedness and response. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Subash and AIMST Universities for this opportunity to share with others during this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Badrul. Nice introduction. Our second panelist is Dr. Jason Blackburn from University of Florida, United States of America. So can I request Dr. Blackburn, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Blackburn. I'm an associate professor of medical geography, and I split my time between the Department of Geography and the Emerging Pathogens Institute, both at the University of Florida. In the geography department, I run a GIS and spatial modeling lab to try and model zoonotic diseases, particularly between livestock and wildlife, and also humans, with a particular focus on anthrax and brucellosis. And at the Emerging Pathogens Institute, I co-manage quite a large US select agent approved Biosafety Level 2 and Biosafety Level 3 laboratory, where we manage a very large collection of Bacillus anthracis, Bacillus cereus biovar anthracis, which is a Bacillus cereus that causes anthrax in primates in West Africa, as well as a large collection of Brucella and a growing collection of Clostridium. So my time is split between laboratory work and spatial modeling. So happy to talk on both the issues of zoonoses and field work as well as lab work. I've worked with the BTRP program since 2004 as a researcher at various universities. So know the program well, and very, very happy to be here, and happy to join you again, and both colleagues in MyOHUN and VOHUN. So thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Blackburn, for introducing yourself. Our third expert panelist is Dr. Ashok Kumar from India. He is Assistant Director General for Animal Health. He is associated with Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Indian government. So can I request Dr. Ashok Kumar, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Subhash. Hello, everyone. This is Namaskar from India. Namaskar from India. Actually, there are two benefits of this, that there is no question of morning, evening, or afternoon. At any time, it can be communicated. Second, it helps to prevent the COVID, infections like COVID. This was, sir, in lighter mood. This is Dr. Ashok Kumar. Presently, I am working as a ADG, what Dr. Subhash has already told. Basically, I had been a veterinary public health person. I had been involved in postgraduate teaching and research in veterinary public health for last 30 years around. There is one institute, Indian Veterinary Research Institute, under Indian Council of Agriculture Research. I had been there, and for last 5 years, I am at the headquarters of the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and I am looking after the policies issues related to animal health in our country. Rest, sir, we will discuss, and anybody, mainly I had been working on foodborne zoonosis, and then vector-borne zoonosis like Japanese encephalitis, and this antimicrobial resistance. And fortunately, we at our organization have very good collaborations, intersectoral collaboration with Indian Council of Medical Research, which look after the human health research in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashok Kumar, for introducing yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, now I request our moderator, Dr. Susan Kelly, to introduce our second speaker, and take charge of the floor. Susan, ball is in your court.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Subhash. Well, everyone, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Phuc. Dr. Phuc and I have been working together for the past year, and what an interesting year it's been, especially because of COVID-19. It's been a very unusual year. But if you need to have friends in an outbreak year, epidemiologists are a great choice. And Dr. Phuc is a qualified specialist in epidemiology with many years of experience in doing health risk assessments. In fact, he has been the coordinator for the Vietnam One Health University Network for the last 10 years. In addition to that, he's also been the deputy director for the Center for Public Health and Ecosystem Research at Hanoi University of Public Health, and the director of the Institute of Environmental Health and Sustainable Development. Speaking of development, he's been developing and participating in different initiatives with national and international donors and partners to generate funding for research and training on health risk assessment in assets such as the water supply, environmental sanitation, and food safety. In so doing, Dr. Phuc has collaborated closely with and built long-term partnerships with various universities and academic research institutes in both human and animal health in his country and throughout the region. This allows him to continue his interest in research using the One Health approach and to leverage his experience in facilitating training trainers on the One Health Systems Mapping and Analysis Resource Toolkit to develop action plans for instituting One Health workforce development, for combating antimicrobial resistance, and for controlling zoonotic diseases in Vietnam. So if you want to talk to anyone who knows something about a multi-sectoral approach to One Health biorisk management, that person is going to be Dr. Phuc. I'd like to hand the microphone over to him, and at the end, we'll be able to start a lively discussion session with our panelists. Dr. Phuc?
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. Very nice introduction. So, thank you very much for Subhash. I give my chance to sharing our experience from Vietnam. Actually, we focusing a lot about biorich management. Not only it's One Health, but I think this is a topic very interesting for us. So during in 15 minutes, I try to keep the short presentation. So to all of you, and after that, you have any question during the panel discussion, I can answer it. Okay, as you see that here is a multi-sectoral One Health biorisk management training program in Vietnam. So you see it's a different logo here. I including it's a Ministry of Health, it's a DPM, a Department of Preventive Medicine, and Department of Animal Health. Belong Ministry of Agriculture. Of course, our colleague from US, DICHA and Sandia Listen Laboratory. And of course, as our One Health Network University, totally 20 university, including at the moment. So you see some is a picture, you see we bring a lot of things, how we are working together. It's a different from the field from the lab to the community. And so it's a high level. Yeah, the brief one slide about the COVID-19 at the moment. We are in Vietnam, very luckily we are well controlled about COVID-19 at the moment. See now we total confirmed 1,168 cases confirmed, but still in the hospital 73, but already recovered at more than 1,000. And totally death is 55. So you see the compare all the world, more than 43 million people that are infected. A lot of people die and more than 1 million. So because we are very early stage, it's strong, it's a leadership coordination at a high level. And of course, we try to rapid case detection and isolation and support a clinical care and emergency public health response immediately. And of course, the rigorous contact checking very tricky at the beginning. And multi-sectoral collaboration together. It's One Health. How we see that? Yeah, almost it's a minute she belong to support from Ministry of Health. Of course, the Ministry of Health is a center, and support is a government party on its level for the center to community. So that we can mobilize all the resources from different sectors so that we are going to succeed. So how we are talking a lot about global health security. Now we are focusing on safety and biosecurity. It's one action package, very important for everyone's concerned. And of course, behind that is a zoonotic disease at our colleague Latifa present before. Very, very important how we link together. So we are working in the complex context. It's a big challenge. So even in Vietnam at the moment, with the big storm and the flooding in the center of Vietnam, many people die, and many palm tree and pig dies. So it's a polluted environment. We're thinking that after the disaster, so how it may be some outbreak or pandemic coming, we need to prepare for the future pandemic. So how is the role of university? That we're thinking that very important. But beyond that, it's biosecurity, biosafety is a very key issue. We not to control the disease, we need to control the hazard as a pathogen early as soon as possible. That's very important for the biosecurity and biosafety awareness. If we have good awareness, we very good management, effective management of biorisk, and of course, we try to bring sustainability in the future, bring everyone to healthy people, healthy environment, and healthy animals. Okay, so we see that it's very important. It's university. So it needs a network, One Health University network. We need to prepare it for preventing, combating, and control the next pandemic. So we think that it's the next generation. So student is a key which we are working around them, and we are trying to bring for them the full range knowledge and practice how to work together and solving One Health problem together. Okay, so the current situation of biorisk management, even for the people working in the laboratory, of course, it belongs to government agency on the university. So we did one very quickly. It's a survey 3 months ago during the online questionnaire. They say that in the human health sector, at the moment, only 57% health sector, they know very well on the biorisk management. And animal health sector a little bit lower, only 37%. So you see that it's a big gap about the changing in education related about the biorisk and biosecurity. If one is a report from our colleague, he actually working in the Ministry of Health. He said that in less than 40% of laboratory staff, they have to understand it and know about practice of biosafety and biosecurity. So it's a biosecurity, it's still very weak. And actually in the practice, that we are trying to concern in the future, how to change it. And the good way to into the training program in the university for the future leader. So you see that we are with support of Sania and Rita, we are working together in few years until now, but we also can continue for next coming year. We plan to many activity. So almost activity we try to bring the multi-sectoral working together, including the Ministry of Health, Agriculture, different research institute, also university, they are working together. Because the research institutes, they have experience working in the lab. They are very good practice. So how is a university can mobilize and get the advice from the research institute? That's the idea. We bring different people working together to make a training course together, and we are discuss. So by all that, we try to make the good. It's the network for biorisk management in the future. So it brief some, it's our key achievement at the moment. we already ran it in 6 sections of remote engagement. I think that during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's a very good model for all of us. We can learn each other and share experience, not only in Vietnam, also on the world, based on a case-based learning prepared by students. So students, they present their knowledge on the biorisk management, and we invite the expertise come to sharing experience, and we are students, we learn by on doing. So what they thinking, and they learn expertise from all the world. So you see, it's a number of participants. They there's like a section, it's a different section, a different topic, like COVID-19, H5N1, and brucellosis and anthrax. Of course, we have some from the Malaysia colleague also present and share experience about that. And you see here, it's a some total it's a participant, it's more than 900 participants on the world from 40 countries, and total 290 questions raised, and a lot of very good questions. And the question is have encouraged us to continue to do this model in the future when we try to keep it in the long term. And we hope that expands our network not only in Southeast Asia, also in Africa, and link with our US partner also. Okay, so the second one is very important for International Federation Biosafety Association. It's a IPBA training certificate program. I think it's one key very succeed until now, and we are prepared for exam for next coming month. I think that this very good provide for Vietnam have a good resource for the biosafety and biosecurity training gender. So including the people working in the health sector at the Ministry of Health, and animal health sector, and of course from the university. So we hope that after this, we try to expand it not only in Vietnam, also we try to connecting with our country in Southeast Asia in the future. And here we already conducted last week, actually last week in Ho Chi Minh City, and so in Hanoi, totally around 70 participants from laboratory in the university. They take a 1 week training course on biorisk and biosecurity. Then we prepare in the future and how they can make biorisk management curriculum to teaching for students. For they define who it become to student, even in the pre-service and in-service training. And we try to use our lecture for the university to develop the biorisk management for other government agency also. Okay, so something we update until now, it integrated biorisk management into the current training program with different topics. So it says that also lead here a lot of topics can include the biorisk management. But we're thinking that if we try to develop the biorisk management become its alone module or training program, it would be better. So we try to generate it one professional on biorisk management or biosafety officer in Vietnam. At the moment, no. We don't know any officer on the biorisk management, but we're thinking that it's very important in the future. Even now we are facing a lot of pandemic and outbreak like that. And some it's a remain activity we try to continue for next coming month or for next year. So I think it's very important how we try to set up the network more strong correlation between different sectors at a high level, at the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, and university sitting together. So we plan already, but we hope that we can conduct this activity in next coming month. And the second one, how students can learn biorisk management in the real community. So we try to set up a student one health response team. So this model can give a chance to students to learning by doing with the local people. and practice it's local health worker on the vet, so that very easy to learn and practice. And of course, in continue, we try to help the laboratory at the university to improving capacity of risk assessment at the laboratory, and we come to the SOP and develop the national standard, both animal health and human health use the same standard. At the moment, they are staying it's a silo separately. It's a human health sector. They very well set up the regulation and standard on biosecurity and biosafety, but in animal health, it's still less. So we try to bring animal health, working to human health, and bring them work together in the same standard. So it's our VOHUN in the center to bring them working together. Okay, so last thing, yeah, very important, we have mentioned already. So we hope that we can organize this event in November or in December. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much. Because the short time I cannot go detail, but if you have any question, please, I think I can answer later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Phuc, for your presentation. You know, your Vietnam One Health University Network and the Malaysia One Health University Network have done very important work. If you look at the presentation that Dr. Latifa gave, the World Bank itself suggests that you have saved your countries a lot of money, but money's just a part of it, right? The reason that so much is saved is because lives are saved and suffering is significantly reduced. And those are wonderful things. Those are great outcomes. So I thank you both for your presentations. While you've been talking, Dr. Phuc, the participants have had an opportunity to think about our guest panelists and their qualifications that they received during their introductions. And so I'm sure there are a number of questions that people have for all of us. I would like to encourage people to type their questions into the chat box. It is my job to help the panel and our guest lecturers to answer those questions. So please feel free to type them there. While we're waiting for our first question to be typed, I was wondering if I could ask a question from Dr. Badrul. Dr. Badrul, I've personally been told many times that a country's efforts to improve its response medically to outbreaks of any kind actually helps the entire country to be more resilient to biological attacks, biological terrorism. And the way I see it is that there are a lot of skills in country that we can use, that we already have. Oftentimes, the military has specialized training and capabilities that can be of assistance in all of those events, bioterrorism, biological warfare, or natural outbreaks. Could you tell me what you see as the benefit of a collaboration between the military and the public health sectors in your country?
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Susan Kelly. What we experience in Malaysia between the military and civilian, we have what we call the civilian military or CIL-MIL collaboration or cooperation or coordination, okay? And I think other countries also experience this kind of approach. During the peacetime, I would say the military also involved actively in the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, the HADAR, okay? And there's also the same happening in Malaysia. Even when I was in the Ministry of Health Malaysia, there were series of meetings and workshops and simulation exercises between the two, the civilian and military, okay? And yes, between Ministry of Health, which is mainly but at times it involves as well the veterinary services as well. When we were exercising something on the human animal health.
It seems
interface. Okay. And okay, Dr. Subash?
yeah, we can hear. I think Wi-Fi is a little bit weaker on your side. So go ahead, Dr. Badru.
All right. Okay, thank you. Obviously, we can see a lot of benefits between this collaboration and coordination between public health or civilians per se, the agencies, and the military, because they have their respective expertise, assets, logistics, for example. For Malaysia, such an instance, when we respond to a disaster, for example, okay, or even the communicable diseases, as COVID-19, as it is at the moment, yes, the ones, the disciplines, the teams from the Ministry of Health, they have been experiencing in dealing with outbreaks for many years now. So I think most of you are aware that in this region, in Southeast region, you know, one after another, we had quite a high profile or exotic, I would call outbreaks, okay? The SARS, the Nipah encephalitis, you know, H1N1 2009, that was also the pandemic affecting globally, and now is COVID-19. And obviously, as well as shared by Dr. Fook, yes, initially it was the Ministry of Health, the Public Health, that responded mainly to this approach. But to some extent, I mean, beyond some capability of capacity of the Ministry of Health, then we have no choice but to engage other agencies together, coordinated at the very top level of the country. For Malaysia, in this case, is the National Security Council, and involve everybody. And a very good example now is what is happening, the surges of COVID-19 in Sabah. Sabah is one of the Malaysian states in Borneo Island, yeah? So very obvious, the logistics-wise, who are helping the multi-agency to respond there is the military, because they have the capacity and capability with their air transports, ships, and so on, okay? And not only that, the military also open up the field hospital in Sabah, somewhere in Tawau, one of the districts there, to cater for the non-COVID-19 patients, so that the government hospitals, the Ministry of Health hospitals, can send their non-COVID-19 patients to the field hospital by the military, so that the government hospitals can concentrate on dealing with the COVID-19 patients. And I think there'll be another field hospital that will be set up by the military in Kota Kinabalu, so with a similar concept. So this is, there are still many benefits, but I'm sharing some benefits that we already see now when we work together very closely, yeah, between the civilian, the public health agencies, and the military. I hope I answered some of your questions, Dr. Kelly. Thank you.
Yes, that's fantastic. So it sounds like right now, public health is very much benefiting from the military's capabilities. And at the same time, I think we recognize that the military is benefiting as well, because their people are practicing their skills during this outbreak and learning lessons that will be useful if they have to act in a military response to some other kind of biological event. So it's useful for both groups. That's good to hear about that cooperation. It reminds me of a question that I was thinking of for Dr. Kumar. So if I could ask Dr. Kumar, please. In my experience, so I have a doctorate in veterinary medicine, and I worked in comparative pathology, so the study of disease in animals and in humans, and how that relates between the two, how it might be the same or it might be different. And it occurs to me that doctors who take care of humans and doctors that take care of animals, we speak the same language. Oftentimes we're using the same process to diagnose a patient. We're using the same words to communicate those diagnostic results to other people in our profession. And in fact, many times we're treating diseases very similarly. What do you think the benefit would be if doctors and veterinarians communicated directly and frequently during a zoonotic outbreak?
You want to ask specifically for the COVID or for any zoonotic disease, emerging zoonotic disease?
I think COVID is a good example of a disease that does seem to infect both human and animals and be passed in between them. I can imagine, though, that there might be diseases such as avian influenza, that if we had a worldwide pandemic of a severe form of that, how important would it be that doctors and veterinarians spoke to each other regularly and very clearly about what's going on?
Right. Thank you putting a very good question. Wherever this system in our country and at the world level, if we see, actually earlier days, all these medicines were very actively correlated with each other. But during the course of specialization, the human medicine and the veterinary medicine, they got departed little bit. It is not the condition in India, it is everywhere. But the things like zoonotic disease, AMR, food safety, they reminded us again to come together and to work together. Regarding avian influenza, we have good relations because this was a global emergency as well as emergency at national level. So what we did in our country, we formed this rapid response team, where professionals from medical, from veterinary side, as well as from local administration, they were involved. And anytime we have one institute under Indian Council of Agriculture Research. This is National Institute of High Security Animal Disease. This is located in central of the India. It is the name of the city is Bhopal. So we have team there. Whenever any outbreak of any mainly H5N1 or even some other related types of avian influenza, our team of scientists from that institute, they visit that particular site and they confirm the diagnosis. Only after their confirmation, we used to report the disease. Then veterinarians from the state departments, they come into the picture and they eliminate the poultries affected and suspected, and following all the guidelines of OE, this 1 kilometer distance and everything got sanitized. And because of this, I can proudly say it that in India, we have faced many outbreaks of avian influenza in our poultry farms, but none of the human case has been reported from India. Because every time with good collaborations from the veterinary sector, we could eliminate the disease in poultry itself. Every time, whenever outbreaks are coming, whether during the time of migratory birds, as it is coming now nearby, so we may face some outbreaks, but every time these have been controlled. Regarding other diseases, we can say that we need little bit more cohesiveness. Other common endemic zoonotic disease, it may be brucellosis, it may be other tuberculosis, lot many diseases are there. We can say that here our intersector collaboration may not be as good as it has been in case of avian influenza or as it has been in case of COVID. The reason may be not in India, but in many countries, that these sectors are under different ministerial system. and that because of that reason there might not be so active and prompt collaborations and this exchange of the information as it should have been and as it has been in case of avian influenza and COVID. In case of COVID also, I can tell you that many of our veterinary colleges and microbiology lab of our veterinary colleges, as well as our institute under this Animal Science Institute under ICR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, if you people call it ICAR, we have tested more than 2 lakh human samples. We are testing wild samples, the samples from wildlife also, after getting some reports, only scattered reports from the globe. We are testing that one also. But besides that, our 6 animal science institutes, they are actively engaged with good collaboration with this district authorities, our municipal authorities, as well as medical counterpart. And we have tested, as a veterinarian, veterinary scientist, we have tested more than 2 lakh human samples till now. Though the number of this testing is more, where other organizations are also involved. I think more than 7 billion, like that, 7 million, sorry. So you can say that wherever emergency is coming, wherever nature is pressurizing us to communicate to each other, we are doing. Where we have some liberty, we need to collaborate more actively. Thank you. If anything additional, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much. I think that's fantastic that you've brought up rapid response teams, because at this point, I think we all know that early is better. Having a coordinated response early on saves money and saves lives. So it makes sense to have that in place before something happens. And I think you're right. There's a lot of places that struggle because their veterinary and human health services are separated, either by the way that they're organized in that country or by other things, such as just not having had a very long or productive history of talking to one another and sharing problems with each other. And so it's good to hear that you have some ability to practice this. Unfortunately, a lot of that practice has come from real world events, which I'm sure were very stressful, but they've been useful. So I'm glad to hear it about the coordination that's happening in India and about your successes. We're very, very happy to hear that. It does make me want to ask a question of Dr. Blackburn now. I noticed something earlier, Dr. Blackburn, your background looked a little bit different to me. Can you unmute your microphone for a second so everybody could see your screen? If you talk a little bit, your screen will come up and it will replace.
Yeah.
There we go. So we'll get you switched out here because I wanted to draw people's attention to the fact that your screen, when it comes up, at least earlier in the evening, it was reversed. So it's backwards. And I'm wondering if that's because you were calling in from the other side of the world and that's why it was turned around the other way. No?
It feels like it sometimes, but thank you to Kanchana for pointing that out to me to fix it. So thanks for the
I thought perhaps you had done that on purpose. It was actually quite witty.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
So we've talked about some collaborations that happen in country, military, helping public health, veterinarians and doctors working together. Your point of view comes from a couple of different places, from research, but also from this global system that you have where you're looking at outbreaks that happen across the planet. Can you give us that, looking at the planet from space point of view, and tell me what you think about the importance of countries working with one another, particularly if there's an outbreak of a new disease, like COVID-19 was a new disease. is it more effective to have countries work together at the beginning to get that outbreak contained in its origin country, or should countries wait until they have their own patients to take action?
So that's a great question. And I think COVID-19 has really shown us how rapidly a pandemic can emerge and how rapidly it can diffuse. So I think one thing we should do first, I'm very much in favor of having transnational collaboration immediately and always. One thing to keep in mind, a number of the diseases that many of us on this call have experience with are diseases that I mentioned, like anthrax and brucellosis, and we've talked about on previous One Health Network calls. And these are really sort of established or re-emerging diseases more so than newly emerging. And we still struggle to manage those across borders. Where we have borders that are porous, it's critical. Where we have livestock being moved or wildlife moving across borders, I don't think we can realistically manage diseases on one side of a border and not on the other. I think any management gains will be temporary if that's the case, because as soon as there's a lapse in whatever the control is that's keeping it on one side of a border or another, as soon as that control lapses, we'll see resurgence. So with things like anthrax and brucellosis, these are both diseases that we have very effective vaccine policies for anthrax and vaccine available. And for brucella, it's a combination of culling and vaccine. And anytime those programs are ended on one side or the other of a border, we see resurgence, and the data on that are very clear. I think in the second, or the first part of your question, but thinking about COVID showed us very quickly, it's arguably probably one of the fastest times that the world has ever shared pathogen data so quickly to make sure that institutes outside of China, for example, could start sequencing and find it. And in fact, I think there was another example with support from DITRA, I believe it was in Thailand. They identified it as soon as the sequence was published. They were able to align it because they had already sequenced it and were waiting for the sequence to be published. So I think with tools like GenBank and other large collaborative networks where data can be shared, I think that's critical. And I think COVID just showed us how critical that is. And I think one word of caution, because I think Dr. Latifa spoke about this earlier, and that's we have to be very cautious about siloing, and countries can silo just like institutions or ministries can silo. So I think we do have to be very careful with making sure that these resources that are built, things like GenBank and alternatives that are coming available, that these be open access as much as possible. That they not just become another silo that's paywalled or inaccessible. So I hope that answers your question, Dr. Kelly.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's because of the technology that we have these days that it makes it possible to share those research results so quickly to such a broad audience. So all of these different groups can start working on that information immediately and simultaneously, which I think is very important because there's opportunities for both diagnostics and for the therapeutics and possibly vaccines to be developed in much the same way if we're able to share results quickly with each other, so we're not all trying the same thing and failing at the same thing. So thank you for pointing out the role of technology. Please do.
Dr. Kelly, if I could add too, I think the other thing we've seen, and it's been mentioned on the call today as well, but across a number of countries, we've seen a lot of immediate need for One Health in terms of veterinary and human labs, both running samples on humans and now more animals, as we've been talking about with COVID. But we saw sort of a global push to make labs that could run RT-PCR COVID labs. And so you heard me say earlier, my own lab is an anthrax lab, but my partner, Mike Norris, is a longtime bacteriologist that's now running a COVID lab. The one thing I want to add to that is the reason Mike Norris has become COVID and a virologist so suddenly is because he had all of the biosafety requirements to run an active BSL-3 immediately. That's the one thing that I think is also important in this discussion, that I think builds on the previous speaker, that we really need to think about making sure that that training includes training and certification in laboratory biosafety levels so that you have a larger team ready. So for example, here in the US, handling diagnostic samples for COVID can be done at a BSL-2, but if you're going to culture the virus and do something with it, the next round of research has to be in a BSL-3, and that's a significant level of training or amount of time required, not only level of biosafety, but level of training and certification and expertise. And so I would just add to this conversation, even when we're talking about emerging threats, part of the way you stage for that is to make sure that workforce has access to those facilities. And I think that's very, very important, because we, you know, in many cases, we have laboratory capacity and not enough people. That's true in the US just as it is elsewhere.
Yes, and it's not your average skill set. And if you're going to be working with a very serious pathogen, it's not the sort of thing you want to learn to do in a hurry, right? Because that presents extra risk for you as an individual, that you might be making mistakes either because of your lack of experience or because you've had to ingest a lot of new techniques, skills, and information in a short period of time. And it's hard to remember that all at once. Better that you have learned these things over a couple of years. I was thinking it might be a good time to go back and talk to one of our guest speakers, Dr. Latifa. I see that we're starting to get some statements here in the chat box. This is good. We'll incorporate your questions, so please continue to talk to us through the chat box. While I'm taking a look at this, Professor Latifa, can you give me your point of view on experience? So COVID-19 is going to provide a lot of people with real-world experience. What kind of role should those individuals play in our next outbreak? What are the proper roles for people who have real-world experience?
That question is for me. I moved away for a second because I was being attacked by a mosquito. Okay, so the question is how would one make use of individuals with worldview experience, especially looking into things like COVID-19? Is that the question?
Yes, what should people who've actually been to a real world outbreak do in the next one? What's a good role for them? Is it teacher? Is it mentor? Is it all those things?
I would say all those things. At Malaysia One Health University Network, I'm sure it's the same experience with other university networks as well. Individuals with specific experience in terms of managing outbreaks, zoonotic diseases, or any kind of like emerging infection, they are the most fantastic resource individuals, person with the right expertise to teach the in-service officers, other basically ministerial officers who do not or have not had that experience. And then also they serve as a fantastic person with pools of knowledge for academicians who probably will not or had not had the experience, but can make use of that experience to teach the younger generation students who will serve in the workforce. And then definitely, you know, students themselves, a lot of theory sometimes is quite boring, and students crave that kind of like applied knowledge. So when you have somebody with real experience, field experience in managing infection, managing emerging diseases, managing zoonotic outbreak situation, definitely it will take the students to a different level of understanding from the theory by which they have learned in class to how it can be applied in the real situation. So it's a different level of learning, more experiential in a way, even though they don't experience it themselves, but listening to people who have had the experience facing and doing and exercising those knowledge that will create a different kind of like dimension of understanding, a different spectrum of understanding on how to apply theory to application. I hope that answers the question.
It does, and thank you. I think it's very important that we include people who have past experience in future events. Sometimes we've done that even taking people out of retirement if it's been a while since the last major event, so that they can share the lessons that they've learned. There is a tendency amongst all mankind to repeat mistakes. You know, we're still humans. And so the types of things that we choose to do in, 1917 versus, 2020 may not be as different as we'd like them to be. The technology changes, but we still have sort of the same weaknesses as human beings. And so it's very important to have someone who's been through this before beside us to make sure that we're making quality decisions and avoiding some of the pitfalls that seem to happen again and again hundreds of years later. And so we need those gentle reminders. So it's fantastic to have people like you here to help walk through these kinds of events and learn from your experience. I see that Dr. Bina has written a comment for us over in the chat box. I'll read it for those of you who don't have your chat box open. Overall, Asia Pacific has a low number of cases. That's true. But Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos have a very small number of COVID-19 cases. She says, I believe in good public health measures as the key to combat this, together with research, good treatment, etc. Did these specific countries, meaning Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, do anything differently to keep their numbers consistently low? I'd like to have the first person take a stab at the answer for this question to be Dr. Phuc, because I've talked to Dr. Phuc quite a bit about what's going on in Vietnam and what the rationale might be for the low number of cases that countries like Vietnam have. Dr. Phuc, can you speak to this a little bit?
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, I think that's a very interesting question and issue. Very important in Vietnam, as I mentioned before, but in Vietnam, it's a government, it's a high commitment, very early stage of the pandemic. Even we are prepared before it, WHO, its announcement. I'm thinking that it's a little bit higher, 1 or 2 level compared with the global context. So because we think that Vietnam is still a low middle income country, of course, but we know that what our capacity of health system, we know that actually in the center to the community. So even we are the system very well connected from the center to the village. We are working in the whole system, and the government, they are mobilized into different sector. Request must be worked together. And the second thing is very important, it's a transparency, it's the data, it's the evidence. So any confirmed cases, it's a government, they confirm, they announce it immediately, it's social media, in the television. So make sure that everyone they believe that the regulation or the policy of government is very good, that everyone follows it. I think that is the second. The third one is testing, it's rapid testing. In Vietnam, they also develop some quick tests. And if you found it's a suspected case, and bring them go to the isolated quarantine area and collect a sample and testing and provide its result on time, it could be good and bring the idea on so how people they can aware to prevent. And of course, we got a lot of support from different partners, even international partner, private sector, even it's individual people. So I think that it's a very good way for us to learn on how to keep thinking about that. Until now, even we are well controlled pandemic, but the government every day they still now everywhere. Even for us, every day we can get a message from a mobile phone. Everyone from Prime Minister to inform us should be less gathering, wear face mask, hand washing, and cleaning environment, and of course let meeting too many people, even so they can cancel some event or festival if they need it not successful necessary. So I think that it now we thinking that we try to keep it that and bring the One Health approach could be the good way for us to encourage everyone working together. So that summit from Vietnam, I'm thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I have noticed that Vietnam does have a particularly good communication system, not just having consistent messaging about how individuals protect themselves, but also giving them updates as to where cases are at and whether people have been in the same area as those cases. That's phenomenal information sharing between the government and its people, and it helps to save lives. Information sharing is very important, especially in these kinds of disease processes, and it goes beyond what happens just within one country. It's something that happens to the entire planet at the same time. And so when we look at communication, we also want to see really good communication between countries. And so I think I might take a moment here to stop and ask Dr. Kumar a question. So Dr. Kumar, you're joining us from India. And I was wondering if you could tell us your opinion of timely reporting to international organizations like the World Health Organization. How helpful is involving WHO and OIE and all of these other organizations in that response effort? Does it help communicate early?
Yeah, actually, all three organizations, FAO, OIE, and WHO, they have been very good in our country. Not only that, some of our programs, for example, we are running a big program on AMR, antimicrobial resistance, surveillance, and all these things. So we are getting good support from FAO regarding technical support, capacity building of our human resource and this thing. We are getting good support. And timely support, rather, I should say.
Which is extremely important. That's good to hear. So we're probably eventually at some point in the future going to need our neighbors again. So that brings up a question I have for Dr. Badrul. Dr. Badrul, what do you think about resource sharing between countries? So for instance, the country that I'm in, the military has a lot of equipment, supplies, materials, and the capability to move those to the other side of the planet rather quickly. And so we've assisted at times in outbreaks in other countries. We had a pretty big mobilization, for instance, with Ebola, because we didn't have to manage cases that we have here in the United States. COVID-19 is a little bit different. We're using a lot of our military resources inside the country right now to assist us with that. But how important do you think it is to share materials? Does it help? Would it help Malaysia, for instance, if the United States was able to send supplies?
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kelly, for the question. In terms of resource sharing between countries, I'll try to share the approach to that question first. Previously, I involved with a number of workshops between ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We have 10 member countries. Yeah, but it's a bit unique about our ASEAN members. For example, in terms of approach under the ASEAN platform as compared to the approach by the WHO. Even though that we belong to ASEAN nations, But ASEAN members themselves divided between different WHO regional offices. For example, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, we belong to Western Pacific region, which is based in Manila in the Philippines, whereas Indonesia, another example, belong to the Southeast Asia region under the WHO region based in Delhi. So what I'm saying is, we've been working together actually in ASEAN through different platforms in exchanging information, in anticipating the information sharing, as well as the resources sharing. One example, last year, I joined the workshops for ASEAN member countries, discussing in how to share resources between the ASEAN countries from the civilian agencies as well as the military from all the 10 member countries in terms of CBRN responses. Of course, it includes obviously the bio threat as well, you know. So, but the unique about ASEAN countries, the approaches are different by respective country. An example, we have shared, I think, many experience by Malaysia for the natural outbreaks as it is now COVID-19. So mainly the civilian agencies, namely the Ministry of Health, you know, that really lead these responses, and then being assisted by other agencies, including the military. But some of the ASEAN member countries, they were approached straight away by the military. For example, Laos, for example, Cambodia, yeah. So the structure themselves are unique to different countries. So that poses a challenge for us in ASEAN countries to engage, to materialize, how to mobilize resources between us because of the difference in the structural, mobilizations of assets, okay? Right. Yes, we welcome assistance from any partners, even outside ASEAN. You just name about the United States of America. Yes, we do. And again, as I observe, for ASEAN, we are very unique, you know. Another example is when we anticipating any kind of disaster in this region, okay? Yes, for ASEAN, we do have our so-called the disaster, assistance center, what we call AHA, which is based in Jakarta. So AHA center in Jakarta in Indonesia, it coordinates the requests and the coordination for the responses to affected country if they experience any big disaster, for other country, other ASEAN member country to help to respond, okay? So for ASEAN, in addition to, I just mentioned about different WHO regional offices among the members, we have a number of platforms in coordinating, receiving and delivering the disaster responses, for example, okay? ASEAN, through AHA, there is one main platform which involves all other 10 member ASEAN countries through respective National Disaster Management Organization, NDMO, for each country in terms of responding to disaster. But at the same time, we also have to engage and accommodate the disaster relief efforts by the United Nations, okay? So there is another platform. And the specific agencies that deal with what kind of disasters or crises. WHO, again, to be in the picture in terms of outbreak of diseases, okay? And another platform to accommodate when we receive the military assistance, be it from the ASEAN members or even beyond ASEAN region. So those are the challenges. yes, we welcome assistance from all over the world, but it has to be well coordinated and harmonized between these different platforms that are existing available here among ASEAN countries. So that's the challenge, actually. Thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you. So one of the things that I'm hearing is, yes, it's nice to get materials from far away, and maybe even people to help you with those materials from far away. But it's actually probably even better to get them from a neighboring country. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the equipment you receive may be more compatible with the processes, procedures, even electrical outlets that you have, but also because the people who come from neighboring countries have a rich understanding of what's normal in your area. And so you may be able to overcome some cultural barriers or language barriers a little bit more quickly with a more local response. And so we know that all emergencies start and end locally. And so usually the most effective response is the quickest and most organized one. So if you've been training and practicing with your neighbor countries on the types of response that you would have together, then you would be able to do this more quickly and hopefully stop something a little bit earlier on. So neighbors are sometimes better than people across the ocean, but I know there are a lot of countries that are happy to help. So it's great to know, and especially what we've been seeing in COVID-19 is we've been seeing that the Asia Pacific region has been doing a fantastic job in response to that virus. So the last question we have for this evening is actually in our chat box right now. So it says, Dr. Kelly, some countries refuse to help due to pride and ownership. Yes, and some countries refuse to accept help due to pride and ownership as well, right? And she wants to know, can we ask one of the panelists how they think that pride and ownership issue could be overcome? That is a very deep question. And to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure which one of our panelists feels most ready to answer that question. So I guess I'll do something I haven't done before here. I'm just going to be silent for a minute and see who on our panel wants to unmute their microphone and take on this tough question.
So I guess what I would say, having worked with a number of different partners and different ministries, I think there are always going to be challenges, interagency challenges, and I think there are always going to be international challenges. And I think we should keep in mind that each of those countries that we want to cooperate together have their own interagency challenges that have to be overcome, as well as whatever that immediate problem is. So I think there has to be constant diplomacy. And I think Dr. Kelly, just to build on I think the spirit of the question, right, that there's refusal to help or challenges in getting that help. I think diplomacy is very important, and I think as best we can for those of us that are on the side of it that many of us are today, which is on the science side, I think we cannot underappreciate or undervalue the importance of direct scientist to scientist communication, because I think that helps to bridge those gaps. I think that helps to build some of that interpersonal relationship that might help an interagency dispute, or that might help an international diplomatic challenge trying to get our partner countries to work together. So you know, I don't know, that might have been a generic answer, but I think it's you know, it's an issue where we have to have as much effort and honesty and diplomacy as we do in sort of that sciences to scientist engagement. And I think when we get refusals to help, we have to ask him, find a new way to ask, or maybe we have to find other partners, right? But I think diplomacy is a big piece of that.
Yes, and I think it's a bit of a different conversation when you get scientists and medical practitioners together versus people who have not practiced in either of those fields. In fact, research, just everything that we talk about from One Health, all of those people need to be involved in these discussions, as a matter of fact. So, and it's really in the best interest of, if you look at a situation like COVID-19, the amount of economic damage done to every single country across the world in one way or another because of this outbreak, it would have probably been more cost effective for people to have had a more coordinated response in the beginning. It's not to say that countries didn't want to, but they didn't necessarily achieve that whole planet coordinated response, One Health oriented type of action. So I think that makes a lot of sense that you do have to take the conversation out of the political sphere sometimes to get a little movement forward. So listen to your scientists, listen to the practitioners that we have on sessions like we're having today. We've gotten all these people together, and I see a lot of heads nodding while you're talking. So I think you've struck a chord with everyone, and we recognize that we have an ability and a responsibility to play an active role in shaping policy and procedures and preparedness in our respective countries, and then also fostering cooperation between countries by being able to explain to people what you can explain, Dr. Blackburn, which is just because a disease started in a particular country does not by any stretch of the imagination mean it's going to stay there. And you can't necessarily pretend like it will. That's not a useful approach. Would anyone else like to speak to the cooperation issue? I know it was a tough one.
Actually, this COVID-19, this is not a first challenge. Challenges were there. We faced these. Challenges are there, we are facing, and challenges will be there, and we have to face. What I feel personally that regarding technocrats, they have good cooperations within the country and between the countries. As a technocrat, always I will look to you people to learn the things or to inform the things. The same is from there. Actually, and I can proudly say that as I told about this contribution of WHO, FAO, and OIE, and my colleague Dr. Samad, he was talking about this ASEAN. Then in our region we have SARC. We have good collaborations with each other, and the organizations are working well. I can say, for example, I can give an example of FMD, foot and mouth disease, where we have international center in our country, and we are extending the cooperation to neighboring countries too, in the form of training. Then we are conducting the training to neighbor countries regarding epidemiology also, under the banner of SARC and so on. Actually, this is the political will at leadership level, and as and Dr. Beckham said that this at diplomatic level. If it remains strengthened, then we can better face the upcoming challenges in in the area of diseases, and that we need to do. Otherwise, this society may suffer. Thank you. With this, nothing additional to say. This is the topic where we can speak hours together, but we have to respect the time limits also. We may have some other assignments. So thank you. And I should be thankful to the organizers to give me a chance and to interact with all you people and kudos to Dr. Kelly for nicely moderating the session. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And we understand your busy schedule. And if you need to part with us for now, we just say thank you. We really appreciated your participation today. And you take care and be safe. As for closing up our session today, the only thing that I can say is as scientists, when we are communicating, specifically when we're communicating with politicians, it's an art form. There's an entire study related to this called risk communication, and you can get a degree in that now. And what that basically involves is you learning not just what it is you're trying to communicate, but learning a little bit about who you're communicating it to. Everybody does something for a reason, including politicians. And so some of this is an art form in figuring out what that politician is trying to do, what motivates them, and how does what you need to communicate interact with that thing that they're motivated about. And if you can reach out to them over that subject and talk to them, and I'm not going to assume what any one politician wants, but if you can convince them, for instance, that taking a public health action will mean that they will have more votes if they are voted into office, or that they would be able to maintain their position in the government if they were appointed because of the decisions that they make in the interest of public health, then that's the closest you'll get to reaching out to them. Sometimes not every scientist is the best at communicating what they know. So the other thing is finding a scientist who understands what scientists think and know, but who can also talk to and convince people like politicians what to do next. And those are special kinds of people. We have a lot of scientists that are very good at communicating science. And so once you do meet one of them, keep their name and their number and their email address handy. You're going to need them someday. But don't try to fight any of these battles by yourself. If whatever it is that you're saying to a particular politician is not reaching them, that message is not getting across, it's always helpful to have a friend who can try to reinforce that message and maybe explain it a little differently. That might work a little bit better. But that's pretty close to it for our time today. I know everybody is really busy. Thank you for staying over, for those of you who were able to do so. I am going to pass the microphone back over to Dr. Subhash, who will help us get towards closing remarks. Thank you so much for my panelists. Take care, be well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Susan. It was a wonderful discussion, but we are running out of time. So ladies and gentlemen, it is a time for closing. So now I would like to request Senior Associate Professor, Dr. Kadiresan Sadasiwa, who is a registrar of our AIMST University, to deliver his closing remarks. Dr. Kadir, are you there? Hello? Is any message? Dr. Kadir, are you there? I think maybe because of we have extended the session a little bit. He's very busy because of lots of things happening in university. Most probably, he might have went in for another meeting. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So since our registrar is not in virtual room, I will just do the closing. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our two special speakers. I want to thank Professor Latifa for becoming a part of our Biosafety and Biosecurity Month. She shared her insights about the activities of Malaysian One Health University Network. I also want to thank Dr. Cook, Coordinator of Vietnam One Health University Network. Thank you very much for becoming part of our Biosafety and Biosecurity Month. And the discussion became very interesting because of our specially invited expert panel members. So I want to thank Dr. Badrul for participating in this event. I also want to thank Dr. Ashok Kumar for taking time out of his busy schedule. He is very, very busy, he told me. So, but I do appreciate your willingness to participate and make our sessions great. So thank you very much for participating. So last one but not least one, I want to thank Dr. Blackburn from University of Florida. You know, in US now it's a very, very late evening there, and you can imagine. So he is a part of this webinar and dialogue session. So I want to especially thank Dr. Blackburn, as well as the Sandia team members, those are in the virtual room, as well as others, those are from United States of America, those are watching us live as a part of this special dialogue session. I also want to thank Dr. Susan. As I mentioned at the beginning, especially I have invited her to moderate this session. So Dr. Susan, thank you very much for moderating the session. I do appreciate this one is your fourth session. You are helping us to moderate for the Biosafety and Biosecurity webinar series, which we have organized. I highly appreciate on behalf of Institutional Biosafety Committee, as well as on behalf of AIMST University. I want to thank you for your valuable time. And in addition to that, last one but not least one, I want to take this opportunity to thank our senior management for their full support, because I should tell all the audience they have given me full freedom to implement the Biosafety and Biosecurity Month activities, and I do appreciate that one. So I want to thank all senior management of AIMST University for supporting this Biosafety and Biosecurity Month. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Institutional Biosafety Committee members for their full support. And last one but not least one, I want to thank our biotechnology students. Otherwise, it would have been very, very difficult to implement these activities. It would have become impossible. So our biotechnology students are helping to implement the Biosafety and Biosecurity Month activities. They are doing number of jobs. So I want to especially thank our biotechnology students for becoming a part of Biosafety and Biosecurity Month and are doing lots of work for the Biosafety and Biosecurity Month. So in addition to that, because suddenly I'm delivering the closing remarks because registrar is not around. So I'm not sure did I miss anything. So, but those are directly, indirectly helping to make our program successful. I want to thank them. Yes, I just remember. I want to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mohammad Baidi Bahari, for taking time out to deliver the opening remarks and supporting the Biosafety and Biosecurity Month activities. And I also want to take this opportunity especially to thank Mr. Christian Kando. I do highly appreciate, because there it's a 180-degree. He is outside. If you consider the planet, here now it's 12 o'clock and 17 p.m. in Malaysia. There it's a.m. So it's 12 hours difference. So thank you very much, Mr. Christian Kando, for participating in this event and making our Biosafety and Biosecurity Month meaningful. So in addition to that one, I think we are running out of time. So once again, thank you everybody. And there is a last task pending. I should not forget. I want to request all the participants to take the moment and give your feedback. I'm just going to project the slide. So just you can scan the QR code and you can. Is it visible? Sorry. Yeah. So please scan the QR code, and I'm sure, I promise it will not take more than 90 seconds. So you can scan the QR code and give your feedback. So your feedback will be greatly appreciated. you can either scan the QR code or use the URL link which is posted in the chat box. After the completion of survey, you will receive your instant participation certificate in a few moments time. And I will keep this slide running for 2 more minutes for you to scan the QR code. So we are looking forward to you all joining us again in the tomorrow's session. Thank you again, everyone, and we wish you a good health and safety.
So thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok Kumar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Subash.
Thank
See
you,
you
Dr.
later.
Badru. Thank you very much. I do
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. It's a late
Thank you,
night.
Dr. Subash.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Take care. Be well.
Thank you. Dr. Cook, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cook. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Subhash. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Hai. Thank you very much. Good to see you here.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I hope you had a chance to scan the QR code, and I'm going to end the meeting. So see you soon in our tomorrow's webinar session. I just want to inform participants, those are still there. Tomorrow we have a webinar at 10 o'clock Malaysian Standard Time. So I'm looking forward to see you there in tomorrow's webinar. So once again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and see you soon.